There's no denying the success of the Switch. Nintendo's latest home console, handheld, hybrid has really changed the game and put Nintendo back on the map and in so many more households than the console that preceded it.
Yeah, but we were talking and we were like, man, like, big picture, is the Switch really going to be, like, cemented in history? Like, what's the legacy of the Switch going to be? Obviously, it's doing really well right now. It's like the best-selling Nintendo home console. But when they release the next Nintendo console, how is the Switch going to stand on its own? Like, you go back to the NES and the Super Nintendo and the GameCube, like, they have these reasons to go back to them. Will the Switch have that?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, we know it's doing good, but as you look out, over the bow, and kind of, hypothesize what could look like 5, 10, even 20 years from now, you bring up going back to old consoles, where Nintendo seems to be kind of dabbling in this, the online platform of being able to play older games. Does that happen? We've already seen the Wii U have tons of its games ported over to the Switch. Yeah. Now that could be because the games didn't do super well and they wanted to give them new life. But in this video, we're going to attempt to look out that far and kind of see what we think could potentially happen with the legacy of the Switch. But I think before we go there, let's look at what the Switch has done so far. So it's about 5 years old.
The journey of the Switch. That's crazy. The Switch has been out for like 5 years.
Yeah.
It was released in March of 2017, and like I said earlier, it is the greatest selling Nintendo home console of all time, which is insane because the Wii was up there for the longest time, and it dethroned the Wii in 5 years, and the Wii was in production for, 13?
Yeah, I don't know for sure on the how long it was in production, but it is kind of surprising, I guess. I know the Switch is huge. I know it's a big deal, but it seemed like the buzz around the Wii, it seemed like everybody had a Wii. So it seemed like your grandma, my grandma, had the Wii. I don't necessarily feel that way about the Switch, but apparently we're wrong,
Well, I know a lot of people have the Switch, and then I know a lot of people that have multiple Switches, so that's probably why, And, like, little kids have them. You got the Switch Lite, for just handheld mode. I'm guessing that counts in the sales, as part of the Switch.
So it's taken out the Wii, and it's still a viable console for Nintendo. It's within 13 million in sales, I think, of taking out the PS4.
Holy crap.
Yeah, and then it's got a ways to go. I don't know that it's ever going to take down the PS2. I think it has like 50 million units to sling before it can get to that almighty PS2 level.
It's still in production.
Yep.
So, like, it's still thriving right now. That'd be insane if the Switch took down the PS2, because the PS2, isn't that the greatest selling console of all time?
Yes.
The PS2 just freaking dominated. But, dude, when the Switch came out, it was revolutionary, obviously. It brought handheld gaming, console gaming, all together in one hybrid console.
Yeah,
it's freaking awesome.
There've been several consoles that I feel like tried doing it, but I look at the PSP did very, very well. Yeah. And that was kind of the start of that thought of I could play console quality games on the go. PSP, and then the Vita, it was just kind of confused, right? It was maybe more cumbersome. A lot of hardcore Vita fans, I happen to love the Vita, but it wasn't as universally accepted, and it didn't have that ease of use. Like the Switch, it's on the TV, boop, it's on the go.
It makes it easy for anyone. You don't have to be a gamer or like a tech wizard to figure it out. You just easy.
Yeah, and it has had, we have said before, the Switch maybe doesn't have enough of its own games to stand on its own, but that has changed the longer it's been out. I mean, I think you're going to look back and say that like Mario Odyssey is an all-time classic.
Oh, it's just fantastic.
Smash Ultimate,
dude. Animal Crossing New Horizon did freaking amazing. Luigi's Mansion 3. This is a new one, Metroid Dread.
Yeah.
Dude, when that game came out, Splatoon 2. There's so many like awesome games that are Switch exclusive.
Yeah, for sure.
Which it makes it stand on its own. But is there going to be more? Because that's like, we only listed like 6 games?
Yeah, so that's kind of, I feel like, the Switch is doing so well, but the ultimate question I think that, is in my mind is, when it's all said and done, will we think the Switch lived up to maximizing its potential?
Oh, yeah.
And the reason I believe that is it seems like a lot of Nintendo fans, they're not satisfied. Nintendo fans are very vocal fans, but
they're freaks.
A lot of people are not super happy with the online, store, the digital storefront,
the eShop,
and I understand that. I get the eShop frustrations. Why not have more consoles on there? And we'll talk about that in a little bit. But man, you do got to give it some credit for getting casual gamers maybe a sniff back into some of those retro games.
Because if you get the Switch Online, you get these apps. You get the NES app, the Super Nintendo app, the N64 app, the Sega Genesis app.
Yeah.
A Nintendo console having a Sega Genesis app?
Yeah.
That's insane.
It is.
I mean, it's only available digital. It's only available if you have the online.
Yep.
But it is cool, dude. It's super cool, and they release new games monthly for it.
But that other Nintendo fan would say, yeah, that is cool, but why don't they have X, Y, and Z, whether it be Game Boy app, GameCube.
Yeah, GameCube, TurboGrafx 16, because like the Wii U and the eShop offered all that.
Mm-hmm. But anyway, I guess what this is all getting to, right? Has the Switch done enough? Has it satisfied gamers? If things were to end today, and you're probably like, well, why would they end today? I think it's important to know the Switch is 5 years old.
Yeah, that's very important, because if you look at Nintendo's history, 5 is a very important number.
Yep.
And let's dive into the history. So these are all North American releases for Nintendo consoles. So the NES came out in 1985. 5 years later, the Super Nintendo came out. 5 years after that, technically 6, the N64 came out. It was supposed to come out in 1995, it got delayed. 5 years after that, the GameCube came out in 2001. 5 years after that, the Wii came out in 2006. 6 years, so a little bit of stretch here. The Wii U came out in 2012, and then the Switch came out in 2017. That's freaking 5 for 30 years.
Lots of fives on the scoreboard. And, are we in the final year or so of the Switch being Nintendo's main squeeze, their main focus? I know, they kind of wetted people's whistle, I felt like, with the OLED Switch.
Oh yeah, that was another... Because they've released 3 versions now of the Switch.
Yeah, Nintendo's never... I shouldn't say never. Nintendo lately, I would say since the Wii, has never been the most powerful console on the scene.
Oh yeah, but that doesn't matter.
It doesn't, but as you're heading in looking at the PS5 and the Series X, the Switch, when it came out, the dogs on the block were the Xbox One and the PS4, and now we've got these extra powerful consoles. It doesn't seem to be stifling the Switch sales in any way, but do we need that next iteration?
Yeah.
The pattern of 5 years, it makes you wonder, are we in the final year or so of the Switch? How long do they milk this thing?
And if you think about it, it's like, what's the legacy of the Switch going to be? It's kind of obvious, right? It's going to be Nintendo's greatest console of all time because it's sold so much. But big picture, has it really done enough to cement that statement of being Nintendo's greatest console of all time? Because we're just hot in the moment right now.
Yeah,
we're in love. We're in love with it, but once it gets older, we might not be.
And I look at a lot of things, it's easy to say, well, it sold the best, so that's their best console of all time.
That doesn't sales don't matter.
Yeah, I think you got to take it into consideration, but if you use that as a barometer of how something's legacy will be, you would probably have to say then the movie Avatar is better than The Godfather, right? Or the Avengers movies are better than Casablanca, right? Not true. Not true. Most people would agree with that. So you don't always want to use sales when you're looking at what will something's legacy be. Is it just cool now? Or and especially with this shift in how physical games, will there just be like a Nintendo, almost like Xbox Game Pass? Where all these these games from Nintendo's history is there. Does that make the Switch kind of irrelevant?
Yeah, because big picture, like we're moving into this era of digital games and stuff, and it's cool because convenience and like we do digital games and it's awesome. But like once the newest best console comes out, that stuff's not available, or once those servers shut down, all that stuff's gone. So like 20 years from now, all those digital stuff on your Switch, gone.
I think a great point of reference, here is I believe the reason a lot of Xboxes or Xbox consoles, Xbox 360, Xbox One, they don't really hold value in the collector's market. Yeah. And I do believe it's because Xbox is in a pattern of you just need the latest one, and for the most part, it's not 100% true. That's why we still have our other Xbox consoles laying around, but they reverse engineer them in a way where you can play the majority of their
backwards
catalog.
Compatibility, which is awesome.
And
Nintendo doesn't do that.
As the Switch, has kind of dabbled with that, you just wonder, will it go down as their greatest console of all time? Will there be as many people that still have an NES hooked up, or Super, or their GameCube hooked up, and they have a Switch hooked up as well?
Yeah, once the next Nintendo console comes out.
There's no right or wrong answers here. I mean, I think it's just fun to talk about.
Yeah.
When you look at the Switch, as we're talking about in this episode, obviously, I do find it very interesting. Let's look at their top 15 best-selling games.
Okay.
As you go through this list, 5 of their top 15 selling games,
1/3 of them
are Wii U games.
Yeah, there are ports. So this is their list of their top 15 best-selling games as of right now. Obviously, this could change.
Yeah.
Obviously, but Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is on the Wii U. Animal Crossing, that was a new game. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, new game. Then you got Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. That was a Wii U game.
Simultaneous released on both consoles, but it was developed for the Wii U.
It was developed for the Wii U. Pokemon Sword and Shield, Super Mario Odyssey, Super Mario Party, Pokemon Let's Go, Pokemon. A lot of Pokemon. That's Switch exclusive. Then you get down to Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe. U's in the title.
Yeah.
Splatoon 2. First one came out on the Wii U. Luigi's Mansion 3. Epic game.
For sure.
Super Mario 3D All-Stars, and then Super Mario 3D World were also Wii U games that got ported. Now, obviously, these games are the bigger, expanded
definitive version,
DLC, like Super Mario 3D World. It's Bowser's Fury, so there's more stuff in it, obviously. But it's a port. It's a port. So 1/3 of the Switch's best-selling games are ports.
Yeah, and it got me thinking when we were doing a little research for this discussion. There's some other bangers that have been kind of tabled, I feel like, or we're just getting teased. We've been getting drug along for 3 years now on Metroid Prime 4.
Maybe more than that, dude.
So you wonder, these are bangers. That's a banger that would substantially help the legacy, right?
Oh yeah.
And then again, we're getting kind of teased, but then it kind of gets rolled back. This Breath of the Wild 2. Yeah,
that got announced maybe a year, 2 years ago, and they just released a trailer, but then it's been radio silent ever since. So it's like, man, if you release the second Breath of the Wild, you release Metroid Prime 4, that's gonna really cement the Switch and its legacy. But then it got us thinking, it's been radio silent. When are these games coming? Maybe Nintendo is holding onto these games, and then when they get ready to launch their new console, because it's been 5 years, guys, their tradition, they'll launch with Metroid Prime 4 and Breath of the Wild 2. Wouldn't that be an awesome way to launch a new console?
Amazing.
I think that would be so cool.
And you got to look at they've used Zelda as launch window-ish games before in the past.
Dude, if you launched with those, people would buy your console immediately. The Switch would be forgotten about. They would want that because of those games.
I think the Switch launch was greatly helped by Breath of the Wild.
Oh, absolutely.
For a certain point in time, people couldn't get their hands on the Switch. That's part of the problem. But I think there were more copies of Breath of the Wild sold than Nintendo Switches.
Yeah, than consoles, which is insane.
So it almost would be wise if Nintendo's thinking, we're even in striking distance of this, to start positioning themselves for the next, the next era.
I mean, if you look at the history, 5 years, 6 years.
Yeah.
You don't think they're going to release these heavy bangers like Metroid Prime 4, Breath of the Wild 2 at the end of the life cycle of a console. They're going to save that for the beginning of a new console. At least in my mind, that's what I would do.
Yeah.
That's how you get more money.
I can't argue it. I mean, it's just an opinion, but it does make sense from a business standpoint. I mean, I can't imagine a new Nintendo console coming out and it has Breath of the Wild 2 and Metroid Prime 4 and not getting it day one.
Oh, dude. You have
huge.
You have, because we've been waiting for those games for a long time.
For sure.
You would have to do it.
So, maybe it hasn't maximized, I guess, what we're getting at, its own releases on the console.
Yeah.
With, again, 5 of the top 15 selling games being ports, 10 dingers in there, and one of them's like Ring Fit Adventure. I don't know that that's really going to be something that people look back on. I think it's big in the moment, kind of like Wii Fit was, but not a lot of people are talking about Wii Fit.
Wii Fit sucks.
And then I think we've already dabbled with this, but I think most Nintendo fans would say they have not maximized this eShop.
Yeah.
It's just trickling out. Now, it was huge. They raised the price, though. It was a huge deal that we got the 64 and the Genesis app. I felt like the Genesis app was just kind of a little token.
Yeah.
And there's been issues with how the games run on the 64.
Yeah, but it's still cool that it's offered. So I feel like the eShop was huge for the Nintendo Wii and the Nintendo Wii U. And I feel like the eShop sucks on the Switch, because it does. But I feel like they're kind of getting away from the eShop and more going into these apps and these tiles.
Yep.
At least that's what it feels like in my mind, because you could go in on the eShops and the old consoles and buy the individual games. Or you can buy a membership and they can charge you yearly, and then they can just slowly release these games. I think they're making more money and it's smarter. Even massive flaws in these apps, and people are still buying the memberships to play them.
For sure.
Like, that's crazy. So that's why I feel like they're not really going to update their eShop, or I feel like they're going down a different path. But a lot of people are saying, I want a better eShop. I want, like, the Game Boy games. I want the TurboGrafx 16 games. I want GameCube games.
Yeah.
Nintendo fans are freaks. They want more.
Yeah, so are they holding back so that they can then offer those things on the next?
You don't know.
You just don't know.
That would be so cool, dude. They release a Nintendo console that's backwards compatible with Metroid Prime 4 and Breath of the Wild 2. I would lose my mind. That'd be insane.
I just look at this time, when we're at this 5-year mark. Is it really going to stamp its legacy and be that console that kind of broke out of that 5-year mold? Is there another 2 or 3 years of it being their main? Just because a new Nintendo console comes out doesn't mean the Switch dies, right? The Switch will still be in production for a while, but usually they kind of start phasing it out at the point that the new console comes out, starts the inevitable death of a console. But it is fun to talk about. How will it be remembered?
Yeah.
How will it be remembered? Will it have the longevity, which I feel like Nintendo consoles, from a collector standpoint and a playability standpoint, they just have so much longevity.
Yeah, they have, because of nostalgia, because of great games, because of so many reasons. And it's very curious. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of really cool and awesome stuff on the Switch. There's a lot of really awesome games on the Switch. So obviously there's going to be some, and like for a lot of like younger gamers, the Switch was their first Nintendo console, so they will have that nostalgia. And but will it be as big as the older consoles that we grew up with?
Yeah, and
I don't know.
I think it's going to depend on this new online gaming platform.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, I mean, we even talked to folks who are traditionally collectors that only buy games online on their Switch.
That's crazy.
They still collect old stuff, but on the Switch, they're only buying the eShop stuff. And then if that stuff is then available again on the next...
And they got to rebuy it.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, and are they going to do that and the Switch then just gets tucked in a closet somewhere? I'm just really curious if it will have the legs and the longevity. There's a lot of kids that grew up in the 80s that still have their NES somewhere.
Yeah, they do. And they have fond memories of playing it, or their Super Nintendo, or their N64,
I mean,
a lot of people.
Look at the collectability of the Wii. The Wii is like people still have people over to play Wii Sports, you know, and do things like that. Yeah. And I just wonder if it's going to fall into that, or will it get ported to death?
Oh.
Almost in a way
that the Wii U
did. Wii U did.
Do you think that they will port Switch games to the next console? That'd be really interesting just to have pushed the new console.
I don't know if you would call them a one-to-one port like we're seeing with this, but I wouldn't be surprised if a Nintendo's version of Game Pass or there's a Switch app on that next console that allows you to play all these banging Switch games.
That'd be really crazy if the next Nintendo console had a Switch app.
Yeah.
That would literally put the Switch out of commission.
And,
basically.
yeah, you know, Nintendo with their backwards compatibility, the Wii played GameCube games.
Yeah.
The Wii U
played
Wii games. I'm just saying, I wonder if they'll just, when they phase it out, if the next iteration of whatever they do will encompass all of that even more. They've found on the Switch success with being able to access old material, and if they continue that trajectory, I really think that the Switch will be remembered as an awesome console in the moment that got us to this console.
Yeah, it's gonna be really fun. Like this is really fun to talk about and like hypothesize and be like, what is going to come?
Yeah.
We could be wrong, and Nintendo won't announce a console for another 5 years.
Yeah. There's no telling.
Yeah, because the Switch is still doing well. I don't know, based on a lot of things, based on like the past, and it's really curious and really fun to think about. And it's like, how will the Switch be in 20 years?
Yeah.
So let's say like 2 Nintendo consoles from now. What's the Switch going to be like? It's hard telling.
It is. I mean,
I love the Switch right now.
Yeah.
The Switch it's an awesome console right now.
But I kind of look at, like, you know, just as a comparative, I kind of look at like the original Nintendo DS. In a lot of ways, it's obscure and it's unnecessary now, because on the 3DS and 2DS XLs, you can play all those games on there anyway, so there's really no reason to go back and play. But the DS was a huge deal for Nintendo.
Yeah,
there was no reason to go back and play it.
So well.
You know, and you think about those type of things.
Yeah, if they offer a way on the next console to play Switch games, then the Switch will go down like the original DS. It was awesome, and it launched like this cool new thing.
Yep.
But then no one's buying DSs now. They're buying the latest.
Yeah.
That's a really good comparison, dude. That's crazy to think about.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see how it all shakes out. In the moment right now, we love our Nintendo Switch. We play this little fella. Hell, we're streaming it tonight when we're done filming this episode. We love it. I'm just very curious on what Nintendo is going to do next, and what the legacy of this thing. What will the collector market be like?
I'm really curious, like, in like 5 years when we go back and watch this video, like what it's going to be like.
Yeah.
And it's just be like, we were way wrong.
Yeah, you never know. But it's a fun discussion, because I as collectors, you do wonder. I will say this in its defense. It's got Nintendo's name on it.
Yeah. So it's not ever going to go down in a lot of value.
Yeah.
It's always going to be something that is collected by somebody.
Mm-hmm.
It's Nintendo. Nintendo fans are freaks.
They are.
So are beer fans.
Yeah.
So let's talk about this beer by Treehouse Brewing Company. This is the Super Typhoon. This is an American double IPA that comes in at 7.7%.
This is third or fourth Treehouse beer we've done on the channel.
Yeah, we have a lot of them.
Yeah, we got a care package sent to us from one of the people that work there,
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Really awesome. It's been very IPA heavy. I do like IPA, especially this time of year. It's getting a lot nicer outside. This is pretty dang good. I felt the same way about a lot of their beers. They are really, really, really solid IPAs, and they deliver on what you expect. I'm not like, oh, holy cow, I've never had an IPA this good.
Yeah, like this is good, and it says that it's a double IPA, and that's what it tastes like, and it's smooth, and it's an easy drinker, and like it's crazy that it's high percentage because it doesn't taste like it's high percentage. It's enjoyable, but like one thing I've noticed with Treehouse, at least in their IPA department, is like they're all good, But like, if you were to be like, tell me the differences, I don't know.
Yeah.
They're all good. They're all good IPAs, but they kind of all taste the same.
Very similar recipe.
Yeah.
We've ran into some other breweries like that too. One of our favorite
Yeah,
breweries.
Toppling Goliath, but they have that distinct taste though.
Yep. So
I don't know if someone were to give me a random IPA, I don't know if I would be able to say this is a Treehouse beer. But I mean, I will say this is good, and it's straightforward, and this would be great on a hot summer day.
I'm telling you, if you were out of town and you went into a local craft brewery and you ordered an IPA and this is what you got, you'd be happy with your purchase.
Yeah.
I'm not saying anything bad about it. I'd probably give it a 7.5 out of 10. It delivers on what it says it is, but it's just solid. It's just solid.
I'm enjoying it.
Speaking of solid, the Switch is solid.
Yeah.
It's kicking ass.
It's taking names.
Nintendo's best-selling console of all time. Doesn't look like there's any sign of its sales slowing down or tapering off, but what is next for Nintendo? And what Nintendo does next could impact the legacy of this thing. It's just a fun conversation to have. In the comment section below, let us know. What do you think the long-term legacy and collectability of the Nintendo Switch will be? And then all we can do is sit back and watch it play out.
Sit back, drink a beer, and watch it play out.
Yeah. All right. We appreciate you tuning in. Subscribe to the channel. We'll see you next time right here on the one and only Gaming Off the Grid. He just walked into Carl Chevrolet and goes, "I'm here to speak with Carl." Will it go down as their best console of all time? You see who's watching?
No.
Look down by your right elbow.
Hacky?
Yeah.
He's popping through.
Yeah, oh yeah, he is.
Oh, dude, he's making an appearance.